Yesterday on the 3rd of May at 8 PM, Natural England released GL31, General License 31. That is the license to kill or take wood pigeons to prevent serious crop damage. That includes fruit and veg. In this video I'm going to take us through what GL31 says and essentially what it allows you to do in terms of crop protection. So let's start with how the General License opens, and that is what this license may be used for. And that will be, and excuse me while I should read from the license here, for the purpose of preventing serious damage to crops by this bird species. So, if your crop is being damaged by rooks, you cannot shoot pigeons over it for crop protection. That's made quite serious from the start. If serious damage is occurring or is reasonably expected to occur in the absence of licensed action, so essentially if you're not shooting them, your crop will be damaged. And where reasonable steps to prevent crop damage by lawful methods have been and continue to be taken. And we'll look into that a little later of what the lawful methods are, aka not killing wood pigeons, are of preventing the serious damage to your crops. So things that you must do and keep in place whilst shooting if shooting is deemed necessary. I should mention here that this is a general license. If you want to use the license GL31 to shoot wood pigeons, you do not need to apply for it. It already applies to you if you fall within the categories of which you need to use it. However, users are advised to keep records of the problems they've had in terms of the crop damage and the non-lethal methods, or as they refer to it in the document, legal methods that they've used to prevent the damage. However, users are advised to keep records of the damage that has happened to crops and the non-lethal methods they've used to prevent damage to crops. Not that you need to submit them to Natural England, however, as we'll see later, you may need to supply them if asked by an officer of Natural England or a police officer. Permitted methods of control under this license obviously include shooting, and that can be with shotguns, rifles, air guns, or semi-automatic firearms as it lays out here, not including Section 5 firearms, strangely enough, destructions of eggs, nests, falconry by hand, and some other methods, although obviously it's the shooting is the one that most of us will be concerned about. Who can use this license? This license is only to be used by people growing crops, or people authorised on their behalf. There is exceptions to this, and that is if you committed a wildlife crime after January the 1st, 2010, you will need to apply for an individual licence, and they will do you on a merit basis on yourself. Next, when can we use this licence? Well, this licence can be used only to prevent serious damage, and I've got their definition of serious damage here. Is damage to an economic or financial interest that exceeds mere nuisance, minor damage, or normal business risk. And then it says, for further information of the definition of serious damage, see the Guide to Sustainable Hunting of Birds Directive 2008, paragraphs 357 to 3511, which says, two aspects may be noted: the likelihood and extent of damage. The chance of occurrence of damage does not suffice. If damage is not yet apparent, past experience should demonstrate a high probability of the occurrence of damage. So essentially, this is the section that allows you to shoot preventatively. Okay, if a piece of ground is about to be drilled, and in years past, if the pigeons were not kept under control, that ground was hammered, you could shoot over the stubble before they drill it. There you go. So you can shoot over stubbles. However, this is obviously slightly subjective, so whatever you do, make sure you can justify it wholeheartedly. Make sure you've tried everything preventative, and make sure you have documentation of previous years of damage occurred, or even pigeons taken to say, look, this is how many pigeons we took on the first days of drillings because they come in that hard. Potentially would not be a bad idea. Obviously, nobody puts a percentage on what serious damage is or what a acceptable loss is to a farmer. Again, so it's subjective, so make sure that you are concrete in what you are doing. On a side note, you can still sell pigeons to a game dealer. However, there is also in that same note states that if you are solely shooting for recreational or commercial purposes, that is illegal. So if you're selling days just for the sake of selling days and not crop protection, that is illegal. If you're going out to have fun, that is illegal. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy what you do, however, it needs to be based in law. GL31. Before you can use this license, okay, before you can go and kill or take pigeons, you need to have tested and tried out some legal, non-lethal methods. There is a caveat, and this is unless their use would be impractical, without effect, or disproportionate in circumstances. What this means essentially is that if you can justify not using non-lethal methods, okay, you get to a field and you're about to put your non-lethal methods out, the pigeons don't care for them, or there's a field where you just generally couldn't cover, as long as you can 100% in faith and in fact, and documentation more importantly, state that you thought that this was the only way that you could prevent damage to crops, then crack on. The license does go on to say that reasonable endeavours must be made and continue to be made alongside the license to prevent damage to the crops through non-lethal legal methods. And those include models to scare, aka dead pigeon models, predator models, gas guns, bangers, flags, realistic scarecrows. They make a statement about making them as realistic as possible, moving them, and then potentially, if that doesn't work, you can use the license, remove the scarecrow, stand where the scarecrow is, and use the license to control the pigeon through lethal methods. Recordings of alarm calls are allowed, pyrotechnics are allowed, and in smaller scale where practical, physical barriers, aka netting, is allowed. And promoted. So make sure some of these methods have been in place and continue to be in place to prevent serious damage to the crops, and keep records of them. Liaise with the farmer, or if you are the farmer, keep documents. Keep documents of what's happening and what continues to happen whilst you're shooting. Next, the license says only undertake lethal control of birds during peak breeding season if lethal control at other times or use of other licensed methods, for example egg destruction, would not provide a satisfactory solution. Peak breeding season they state as May to September, so the majority of the summer. So you're allowed to go and take eggs and use other legal methods, and if none of those prove satisfactory, only then can you shoot. So again, if you're shooting from May to September, you need to justify why you're doing it, even more so than if you were doing it outside of that period. You must, if asked by an officer of Natural England or a police officer, be able to provide details of preventative methods that have been in place and what has taken you up to the point of using GL31 as lethal pigeon control. The details you need to provide look like this: what crop you are protecting, what lawful actions have been in place and are in place for both wood pigeons and other species to prevent that serious damage, and why the threat of serious damage is sufficiently serious for you to have resorted to the use of GL31, this general license. So essentially, keep documentation of why you have gone out shooting and the build up to this period. Make sure you get photographic evidence really of damage to the crops and the justification that that damage is relatable to that species. That species being wood pigeons at the moment. There is welfare requirements set in place as well, aka you must kill these birds humanely. You must shoot with sufficient caliber, cartridge, etc. to kill them within one blow. That is what humane means. Any damaged or wounded birds need to be followed up immediately and dispatched. There is restrictions on where you can use this. Those restrictions are for triple SIs and with a 300-meter barrier around them, or any specific bird breeding site set out by government. That's triple SIs, SPAs, Ramsar sites, etc. And they state that any place that Natural England thereafter state. So they can bolt anywhere on that they want that is an exclusion zone from this license. Worth mentioning, this license only runs from the 3rd of May all the way to the 31st of December, and this is the first, I wouldn't say this is the first edition. If we look at the Crow license, they've done 2 editions of that now. So this might be subject to change, so just keep your eyes on it, and we will post in the comment section of any updates that are happening. For those of you who want to know where the triple SIs and the exclusion zones are, go onto the DEFRA site and look up the magic map, and that will give you a site and a list of everywhere that is triple SI, and so you can know on your boundaries what is triple SI and what is not, so that you do not break the law or do not go outside the terms of GL31. For anybody who wants to know more information, make sure you read the full GL31 and associated documents, because if you fall foul of the law, ignorance is no excuse. We're going to run through some key points now that I think are very important. First point is that not a lot has changed from the old general license. There is some more boundaries, however those boundaries were there before, but just not as hardly defined. It's kind of nice to know where we stand, and yes, more restrictions aren't always great, however I don't feel like this is overly restricting. Key point 2, make sure alternative legal methods are in place. If you are not scaring the pigeons first, or cannot justify why you haven't put something out to deter the pigeons first, you are breaking the law. If there is no threat of serious damage, you are breaking the law. If there's no future threat of serious damage, you are breaking the law. Point 3, record everything. Make sure you have records of when the deterrents went out, when you went out, how many pigeons you saw, how many shots you fired versus how many pigeons you killed, how many shots to scare you had, what you have done to prevent the damage to the crops in the first place, and what you are doing ongoing. Every trip you've had, and make sure everything is justifiable 100%. Which isn't a bad idea anyway, really, is it? If what you want to do is not inside of GL31, make sure you apply for an individual license to do what you need to do. If the control of pigeons that you require is not covered by GL31, apply for an individual license for your reason. Really simple. And my final point is this is only for provable pigeon damage, or that past experience would suggest that pigeon damage is imminent. And as long as you can justify that, you're safe. Guys, good luck pigeon shooting this weekend. Good luck protecting the crops, as long as there's crops to protect. Take care, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.